Hey, what's up guys? Tony here, and I am really excited to bring you guys some more iRacing to my channel. It has been a while since I've had some iRacing on here, and this is a very special race because I win this race. And I hate to tell you that at the beginning, but the problem is it's like a 25-minute race, and you know, if you guys wait around to the end, it's not recorded while I was racing, it was recorded after the fact, so you don't hear like the in-game comms, you don't hear the spotter telling me, you know, what's going on, you don't see what lap it is, you don't see what position I'm in. So I figured I'd just give it to you at the beginning because there's two things I want to talk about. I do want to talk about the race, and I'm going to do that first, but I also want to talk about my educational experience again. I've done a couple videos like this, but the reason why I'm redoing it is because someone has asked me to do a video about my educational experience and where I am now, but I don't really remember the video in which that they're referencing, so I'm just going to do it all. I'm going to do it all in one sitting. So if you want, sit tight, you know, maybe if you want to watch some good racing, turn the volume down and just watch some racing. But if you want to listen to what I have to say, please stick around, because, I mean, I'm doing this because somebody wants to hear my experiences in education and where I am at now. So I want to fulfill that request. And so here we go. First of all, though, I do want to talk about the race, and I want to talk about this situation because this is week 13. If you're an iRacer, you know week 13 is an unofficial. Most of these are unofficial races, and so it really doesn't mean anything. Really, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't go in your record. It doesn't do anything. But for me, it was a very thrilling experience because I've only won in my career now. Officially, I've won 2 races, one of which I didn't even know that I won until after the fact. I was just looking at my records one day. I was like, oh, I won 2 races. What the fuck, you know? And I was looking through the recent history, and I happened to win this race as a Kia driver, which was really weird. So in the 100+ races, well, I mean, I have 100 official road races, and I have a handful of unofficial, you know, bunch of unofficial road races. Out of that, I've only won 3 times, 2 which that I've actually known. I crossed the finish line in first place. One of which, like I said, I had no idea that I won. It just was like, I looked at my stats and I was like, oh god, I have another win. Where'd that come from? But I want to talk about like the way I am as a driver and the way I am as a person, and which is really strange because I'm a baseball player. I've been playing baseball all my life, and there's this term like you're inside your own head. You know, you need to get out of your head and just play. And so you go through these moments during a game where you might think about something, you might get in your head, and you know, you have to shake those feelings and just concentrate on what you're doing. And that's what happened in this race. There was as soon as I got into first place, it was probably like, I don't know, like lap 2 or lap 3 or something like that. But as soon as I got into first place, the first thought that always, because I've been in first place before, you know, it's not, I mean, I can count on probably one hand plus a couple fingers the amount of times I've been in first place. It's not very much, mind you, but it's happened before. But there's a thought that gets in my head, and it's my own insecurities about not being a very experienced driver. It's just like, don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. And I get that in my head, and then of course what you inevitably do is you fuck up, and that's the way it is in baseball. You're like, don't make an error, and you make an error. That's just what happens when you have these thoughts. You're just like, don't do this. You end up doing it. And so I got into first place in this race, and that was one of the first thoughts I had. Was like, don't fuck up. You're in first place. You've got a decent lead, because I had about a 5-second lead from the person in second and third place. And so I kept thinking to myself, don't fuck up. And so I was driving, and I'm just like, okay, get those thoughts out of your head, Tony. Corner to corner. And I really, really had to think about corner to corner driving, just, you know, getting into that flow, not worrying about stuff. It actually got to the point where I wasn't really watching what lap I was on, and really who was the traffic behind me. I was just trying to get to these corners and get these laps down, and do it as quickly, obviously, as I could, while not trying to think about fucking up, because that's where my brain was. So anyways, it got to about lap 7, it was like 7 or 8 or something like that. Suddenly my brain just out of nowhere, I'm just like, man, this is gonna make a great video. I can't wait to do this video. I'm talking about how I won. And so suddenly I had these, I was thinking beyond the race. I was thinking well beyond the race. I'm like thinking about right now, this moment now where I'm making this video about winning. I was thinking about that. I was just like, oh my God, I can't wait to win. I'm going to make a video about it. It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to do that. And then usually what happens after that is like after I'll mess up a couple times, and then all of a sudden I'll kick back into don't fuck up mode. And eventually I fuck up, and because yesterday I had raced with Tim, my buddy Rebel Forge. Tim my racing team partner, he and I were racing the last couple of days, and so I got into first place yesterday, and I got those thoughts in my head. I was like, don't fuck up, and I fucked up 3 times, and I lost my first place. I actually ended up crashing my car, and I started in 15th, got to first place, and then I dropped, I think I finished like in 5th or something like that. It was really bad. So anyways, I got to those feelings, and then I was able to push those thoughts out of my head, continue racing, and it was about lap 13, 14 that I realized, oh my god, the end of the race is coming up. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh. You know, I looked at my lead. I really started to pay attention. I had like a 17-second lead on the guy in second place. It was like 35-second lead on the guy in third place. And I'm like, okay, I can fuck up, but I can't fuck up real bad. You know, it's just like, don't have a catastrophic failure. Don't crash into anything. And thankfully, I think I had a couple of, like, towards the end of the race, I kind of had a couple of moments where I was like, oh, you know, those like, those butt clenching moments. You're like, tightening it up. You're like, oh god. But obviously, I came through. I won the race, and I was a thrilling experience. I swear to God, it was just one of those, you know, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. And at the same time, I actually had that feeling like, oh, well, I can totally do this. There's no pressure here. It also helps that the people in the race weren't that fast. Like, I'm not that fast. My fastest lap time was like 1:37. My average lap time was like 1:39. I've been in races with people that are putting down like 1:36s, 1:35s. So I'm by no means fast. I just happened to be the fastest that day. Not only, and this is what I'm really proud of, not only did I finish first in my class, I finished first overall. So I was super stoked. I was on cloud 9 before I had to go to class today, and so I'm making this video about it. So I'm really stoked, and maybe during the course of this coming season I might be able to pull off a W. Who knows? I'm not, knock on wood and everything, but it's possible, and I'm going to be very optimistic, and I'm going to take this experience and sort of build on it and be like, yes, I can do this. So I'm going to transition now to education. So what I want to talk about is, like I said, someone had asked me before, where are you now? You know, you did the commentary of your educational experience. I want to get to that. But just in case you don't know, like when I was younger, I was a really good student in high school. I finished high school with like a 3-point-something GPA. I think like 3.1 or 3.2. I don't really remember, but it was a 3.0 GPA. I was particularly proud of that fact. But one thing is I wasn't really good at, like, after high school, I did what everyone does, is you go to college. And I figured out really quickly how to drop out of college because I had absolutely no motivation about going to school. So that first semester in college, I went to class, and about 6 weeks into class, I just got so bored and I dropped all my classes. I mean, every single, and then one class I stopped going to all entirely. It was this English class, and I'd passed the drop deadline, and I couldn't get a refund for the classes that I'd already dropped because I did after the drop deadline. But that one class, I just stopped going, so I got a WF, a withdrawal failure. And then I bounced around. I went to school in Maricosta and Oceanside, and then I went to Palomar and San Marcos, and did the same thing at Palomar. I just didn't have it in me to go to school. I just couldn't do it for whatever reason. And then I decided to just, let's not do school, let's do work. Because the way my parents worked, they had this deal. After you graduate high school, all three of them, my 2 brothers and I, we all had the same deal. You're either going to go to school, or you can work and pay rent. And so, of course, we're like, we're going to school. Like, I don't make enough money to pay rent. What are you talking about? So that's what we did. And then, well, fortunately for me, my parents really didn't enforce if you're not going to school, you pay rent. They had sort of threatened it, but they didn't really enforce it. And I was working full time and just fucking off. I was street racing at night, going to work during the day, spending my money on my car, just being young and just having fun. And that's really what my youth was all about up until I was, about 20, 21 years old. And then I met this girl that I really had a thing for. We met in high school, and I was a senior and she was a sophomore, and it was one of those, she was like 15, 16, I was 17. And so she was in a couple grades lower than me, obviously. And so we kind of dated in high school, and I think she was 16 and I was 7. Anyways, the point is that we dated in high school, and I had this thing for her, this crush on her that just wouldn't go away. And years later, after she graduated high school, she was 18, I think I was like 20, something like that. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. We got together, and after high school we got together. We were together for 2.5 years eventually, but she told me one time, she's like, I like you a lot, but I really want you to go back to school. I want to be with someone who has an education. And of course, like, I was really in love with this girl, and I'm like, you know what? Yes, you got it. I'm gonna do whatever you want, because I really like this girl, and I really liked the guy I was with her. So I pretty much dumped my racing friends, just stopped talking to them, stopped hanging out with them. And I enrolled in school, went back to Maricosta, because she went to Maricosta as well, because her sisters had gone to Maricosta. And so I went there, and I think I did a semester or two. I can't remember. I think it was just one, or it was a couple semesters. Anyways, so I did a semester there, and so I was like, I get school, like, I can do it, but it's just not my thing. And so she's like, well, you've always wanted to do photography, so why don't you go do photography? There's a school that you've always wanted to go to. Why don't you just go to it? And I said, you know what? You're right. There is a school that I've always wanted to go to, so I'm going to do that. So I went to this photography school. It's Brooks Institute of Photography is what it was called. I think it's just called Brooks Institute now. And it's up in Santa Barbara, California. And it was a private school. It is a private school. And it was really, really, really expensive. And I don't regret going there, because of the fact that I learned a lot about photography, for one, but I learned a lot more about myself and the man that I wanted to be. It was the demise of that relationship, unfortunately. We ended up breaking up. Gosh, she moved up with me. She went to Santa Barbara City College while I was going to Brooks, and after about 6 months, we had our own place together. We had 6 months, she moved back home. She didn't like the school. She just didn't like being up there away from her family and stuff. And she moved out, and I just had that feeling, like that seed was planted in the back of my head, just, little ninja plant back there. And I knew that the end was near, and I think it was literally like 7 or 8 months later, we broke up. And we had a pretty rocky sort of friendship, on and off kind of a relationship going on there for a while. But the point is, though, is that she changed me forever, and I'm actually I am eternally grateful for her and for what she did for me, because she changed me, my personality. She geared me up to be a very successful student, and I've told her this. We remain friends to this day. But I told her this a while back. I was like, I thank you for what you've done for me. You changed me as a person. You made me appreciate education. You made me realize how hard you have to work to be successful. And part of that, also the learning that I did, was partly her, also partly the fact that I was going to this really intense photography school, and basically, like, per week, what you'd have classes like Monday, Wednesday, and so you would get an assignment on Monday. And the teacher, not really a professor, but the instructor, I'll call them instructor because they weren't teachers, they were just professional photographers that would teach classes, but they were by means no certified, professor credentials. They didn't have any of that stuff. They were professionals in their field. So on Monday, they'd give you an assignment. They're like, I want you to photograph, like a Budweiser ad, and these are the parameters I want you to do it in, and this is the things we're looking for. So they'd give you the description as if it was a real job, and you go shoot it, and it was due that next week. So you had, from Monday, you still had class, you had all week to plan and execute, edit, and present your photo. So you had a week to do all that. So you had a week turnaround, and these aren't like, you were supposed to be producing professional quality. This is shit that you should have put in, that could be put in a magazine. Like, it had to be a certain level of quality. It was a professional training school, basically. It was like I don't want to call it like a trade school, but essentially it was like, it's a high quality trade school for photographers. And so what it was is I got really, really good at getting work turned around. My work wasn't the best. There were plenty of people that were far better than me, more artistic people, better photographers in general. With iRacing, I was just like middle of the road. I was okay. I wasn't the best, but I certainly wasn't the worst. I did my work, and that was really that. And I don't want to drill on about that too long, but the reason why I bring that up is because when I left Brooks, because I never finished the program, I ended up, I guess technically I'm a dropout, which at that time wasn't that big of a surprise to me, because I dropped out of pretty much everything else that I'd ever done academically speaking. I was a dropout. I returned home and I was burdened with a lot of student loan debt, and the one way to prevent myself from having to pay it off was to go to school. As long as you're in school, I don't have to pay it back right away. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back to school. And I went back to school, and it was the same issue that I had when I was younger. I didn't know like how to stay involved. So I decided, while I was up in Santa Barbara, I forgot to mention this, but while I was up in Santa Barbara, I decided to take some theater classes, do some acting, and that was a lot of fun. And I was a couple classes away from an associate's degree. So when I came back down, back home, I started going back to the school, Palomar, that I had gone to before. Took some auto shop classes, took some regular classes. I'd come back, and this time I was a reentry student. I was determined to get through school. I really wanted to get through school. And I worked on a theater arts degree. Even though I had done all that work in Santa Barbara, I didn't transfer the units. I went from the basics, theater 101, let's learn the different methods of acting and go from there and just have a good time. And it kept me in school. And so what I would do is I'd take these theater classes with like an academic class, so there's like 3 theater classes and a couple academic classes. And then as the semesters rolled by and fell off the calendar, I would take 2 theater classes, 3 academic classes, and it got to the point where I was taking 1 theater class to a full load of regular academic classes, or no theater classes, because I had finished a program and I had gotten that degree. And so I had gotten the degree, I quote graduated, and I still had 1 semester left because I couldn't transfer to a 4-year university yet because of the fact that there was budget cuts going on. But during this time when I was going to school at Palomar, I ran this really, really influential professor, Professor Dudick, and she actually turned me into, I always had it there. I always had this experience there where she turned me into this historian. I always loved history, but I didn't, there was this quality about it I couldn't get my head wrapped around. And as we were watching this documentary in this class, and this lady was looking at Margaret Ballard's diary. She was a midwife back in the 1700s. Late 1700s, pretty much during the Revolutionary period, and so she had birthed something like 800 babies during that time, and she had a really high rate of successful births. Anyways, this female historian was just oh my god, she was enthralled and just totally happy that she found this piece of history that male historians had passed upon. They didn't see a use for it, so she wrote this very successful book. Anyway, so I was watching this video. I'm like, I do that when I go to antique stores. That's what I do. And I expressed that to Dr. Dudick, and she's like, I think you would be a great historian. Let me kind of show you the path. And so I switched to history. So I transferred as a history student to Cal State University San Marcos. And when I left Palomar, I left in 5 semesters that I was there. I left with 4 degrees total, but 2 that I was working towards. So I had a degree in theater arts, and I had a degree in liberal arts and sciences. And then 2 other degrees were in the general education. It was like social behavioral sciences, general education, emphasis, and something else. So I ended up with 4 associate's degrees after with going to school for 5 semesters. I also graduated with a 3.5 GPA, so I think that's cum laude. And I was invited to join the I think it's Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society for junior colleges. And so when I got to my transfer school, I spent 5 semesters at my 4-year university as well, due to budget cuts as well. This is during the time budget cuts were pretty bad. But while I was there, I met some really influential professors, and I had a really good experience. Oh man, I love the people that I went to school with. But academically speaking, I was able and I qualified to join Phi Alpha Theta, which is National History Honor Society. And so I graduated. It was really cool. I graduated. I had the sash for Phi Alpha Theta. So I graduated with an honor society. So my educational history, 2 honor societies, cum laude from my junior college, which it was actually really cool. I never really thought that I'd do that. And I never really thought that I would graduate from college too, at all. But now where I'm at today is I'm in my 2nd semester of grad school, and I did my 1st semester last semester, and it was a big pain in the ass. But I'll tell you, it was worth it. I feel, I guess, enriched. I can't quite describe how I feel about being a grad student and what it means to me. which is ironic because I'm in a discipline where writing and being articulate is of the utmost importance. It's paramount to being a successful historian is to be able to communicate effectively, and I cannot communicate the feelings that I feel as a grad student, as somebody who has put the time and effort into going from someone who is really bad at school to someone who's been very, very successful. I mean, it was always there, and I think anybody can do it as long as you put your mind to it. But it's still, like I said, it's hard for me to grasp. I went through this phase where I just couldn't handle school, and I bounced in and out, and I thought that I'll never get to school. But really, hard work and perseverance is what got me through community college, through my 4-year university, and now into grad school, and that's where I am today. So I really honestly think that anybody could do it as long as they put their mind to it and you dedicate yourself. School's not hard. It really isn't. Like, education's not hard. It's finding the thing that you're interested in. That's what keeps you in school, because that's what kept me out of school when I was younger. I didn't know what I liked. I just, it's sort of compulsory. You finish high school and you're like, I gotta go to college now. But college might not be for some people. You might enjoy being a mechanic, or you might enjoy working on being a plumber or a carpenter, or a lot of the quote blue collar jobs. You might like that better. You might get more satisfaction out of that than you would college. I know from my own personal experiences, I really thrive on teaching. I absolutely love teaching. While I was living up in Santa Barbara, I coached high school baseball. I loved teaching baseball to these kids. It was so fulfilling. It was so rewarding for me. And so that was that spark. I had that spark also before I went back and got the whole history spark, but I had the teaching spark. I knew it was there. I just didn't know what to do with it. So I know for myself, that's what I love. I love teaching. I love being able to inspire people. And so you just have to, and it's really hard, but you actually kind of find that if you do go to college, if you do have an interest in college, it's sort of an inappropriate time because it is the spring semester, and this is probably a commentary best left for the fall or the summertime when people are thinking about going to college. Maybe I'll do one again. But the thing, though, is you really not only go to school to discover or to learn about the variety of things you learn in school, become a more well-rounded, a more analytical thinker, but you go there to discover something about yourself. And that's really what college is about. It's a discovery of self just as much as it is a learning environment to learn about the math and science and history, biology, theater, if you like theater, music. And that's really what I would say is if you're out there and you do have a hard time getting into school, go and take things you like. Go take music, go take art, go take photography, go take journalism, theater. If there's something that college has offered that you really like, and you find it, like welding, for instance, or auto shop. I took auto shop classes years before I got into like the nuts and bolts and the actual academic side. I took all these other things that I found interesting, body shop stuff, these other quote trades. Do that. And if that's the way, like for me, theater was, if that was the way to get your ass to go to school, go do that. And then once you're there, you might find there's that spark, that light bulb moment that you've been missing your whole life. You're just like, oh yeah, that's what I love. I love biology. I love computer science. I love history. I love English. I love Spanish, French, German, political science. I don't know. There's so many different disciplines, but when you're there and you open yourself up and you're going there because you want to go there, I guarantee you're going to have that moment. You're going to be like, yes, that's what I've been looking for. That's what I've been missing. That's what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I had that, and I didn't have it until I was 25, and I had to have a lot of life experience before I could have that. So it's okay if you don't go to school until you're a little bit older, a little bit more mature, when you can appreciate school. Because I know at 18 I didn't appreciate school. I didn't appreciate what my parents were doing for me. I just was going because that's what I was told to do. So I guess I'm going to conclude. I'm going to wrap it up right here. If you're going to go to college, or if you're thinking about going to college, go to college for you because you want to go. Don't go because you have to go or you think it's expected of you as a fresh high school graduate. Go do what you want to do, and you'll be successful. You will be successful if you're going because you want to go and you know what you want to do. Or like I said, even if you don't know what you want to do, you just know that you want to go to school, you'll find what you love there. I guarantee it. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I shall talk to you guys later.